Good afternoon. I am Sofia Godio from Argentina, and on behalf of the World Forum for Ethics in Business and the World Forum for Art and Culture, I welcome you to this panel. Inspired by Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, the World Forum of Art and Culture was instituted with the idea of having a centralized platform to engage with artists world over, to enable artists with their indigenous flavor to promote their art and collaborate with them to teach and ultimately to unite the world through arts and culture. We have had performances with over 2.8 million artists from 156 countries, 12 Guinness World Records, 2 World Culture Festivals, and the vision of a one world family. For this conference, titled Changing Paradigms in a Pandemic World, we look at how you, as young artists, have coped. In Cope It or Cap It, today we discuss. Maxi Pacheco is a musician, songwriter, and performer born in Resistencia, Chaco, Argentina. Currently, he's residing in Buenos Aires. He has released 5 albums and has toured nationally and internationally for more than 10 years. He is also a lawyer, although he does not practice as such, and has been practicing transcendental meditation for more than 8 years regularly. Welcome, Maxi.
Thank you.
What would you say are the major drawbacks of sharing your art on online platforms?
Yo creo que hace bastante tiempo las plataformas digitales están preparadas para compartir música. Por lo tanto, muchos problemas en lo que es la distribución digital de la música, creo que no se han expandido con esta pandemia. Me parece que ya las plataformas digitales estaban preparadas para distribuir música. Entonces, no me encontré con muchos problemas en ese sentido. Yo estaba terminando de grabar un disco cuando empezó la pandemia. Mi 5º álbum lo estaba terminando de grabar cuando en Argentina se empezaron a cerrar las puertas y se empezó a cerrar todo. Entonces, lo tuve que sacar al público. El mayor problema con el que me encontré fue con la música en vivo, poder tocar en vivo. Eso para los músicos es muy necesario y no se pudo hacer durante mucho tiempo. Y ahí no hay plataformas digitales que puedan suplantar el tocar en vivo, porque se hicieron algunos intentos de streaming, de hacer conciertos online, pero en ese sentido creo que las plataformas ahí no estaban preparadas para poder hacer una buena difusión de los conciertos en vivo. Desde la técnica, desde el audio, desde la preparación de los lugares físicos y sobre todo desde la transmisión de persona a persona de un concierto en vivo. Eso es muy difícil de generar de manera digital, de manera online, porque lo que sucede en un concierto en vivo es algo que trasciende a una pantalla. Y eso fue lo más difícil de poder compartir con la gente en todo este periodo de tiempo. La música grabada, la música de estudio, todo ese proceso ya hace bastante tiempo que se podía venir haciendo a través de plataformas como Spotify, por ejemplo, entre muchas otras. Pero la música en vivo fue lo más difícil de compartir, porque los estudios no estaban preparados para poder transmitir de manera online, porque los conciertos no eran lo mismo, porque creo que, como decía antes, es muy difícil de poder transmitir de manera online lo que se puede transmitir en un concierto en vivo. Y creo que ahí es donde radicó la mayor dificultad de esta pandemia en lo que respecta a la manera de distribuir de manera digital, en este caso, la música.
Thank you, Maxi. Yeah, I totally understand. The concerts have been a real challenge for you all. Mm-hmm. Now we have Cindy F. Daniel. Welcome, Cindy. Cindy is a thespian who recently began producing community theater and digital content. She is also an attorney in the culture field and a radio personality who uses her industry insights to contribute to creative sector developments. Hi, Cindy. It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here with everybody.
So I have a question for you, Cindy. Have you ever had to face like backlash or rejection on social media? And how did you deal with it?
Yes, I think every artist has experienced that because the experience of art is very subjective. So you will always have people who will critique something, find fault with it. And it can be very damaging as an artist because it's the same as somebody saying, my baby is ugly after you have made yourself vulnerable to share your art with the world. For me, I keep a journal when I'm creating. For every single project that I start, I keep a journal and I find writing therapeutic. The process of creating itself is very fulfilling. And then by keeping this journal, I usually have somewhere where I can map my journey. So I know that it has helped me when I've faced criticism after releasing content or art, when I go back to that, because I can go back to this place where it was just me and my thoughts in the creative process. And very often I remind myself that the actual process of creation in and of itself is enough. And even though you would love for everybody out there to feel the same way about your art, you just have to be realistic and know that it's not going to happen. There will always be, and I think it's human nature to focus on maybe that minority that finds fault with your art, as opposed to a lot of people, the people who really appreciate it. So you really have to recalibrate and remember the reason that you did your art in the first place. That has always helped me. I think also now with the pandemic, creatives are sharing online and you get feedback immediately. It's instantaneous, as opposed to, let's say you're an artist, a visual artist, and you have a piece in a gallery, people have come to an exhibit. Unless you are there standing in front of your painting, you don't necessarily get that feedback immediately. So with comments on social media, as the artist, I think it's good to take a break sometimes. Just unplug after you've released your art, because it can be challenging for mental health, I think, for artists. And sometimes discouraging if you allow yourself to focus on the negative. That has always helped me. Sometimes it's just good to detach. If you have somebody you trust, you ask that person to moderate your comments, give them, and filter the feedback for you.
That's beautiful, Cindy. I think it's like a great advice, no? The thing of like having a little bit time off social media, like doing your journal, and just because feedback is so instantaneously, and like sometimes they don't even measure what they're saying,
Yeah, you want to avoid taking it personally, but sometimes we are sensitive, especially artists, because it's a part of you that you're reflecting to the world.
Totally. Thank you so much, Cindy. Great. So now we have Ivan Runge. Welcome, Ivan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Ivan grew up in Quebec. He's from Canada and studied the violin at the Conservatory of Music before moving to Ottawa to pursue his master's degree. He is a permanent member of the Ottawa Symphony Orchestra and a part of Musk Ox, a chamber folk trio. Ivan performs regularly as a solo performer or with one of his bands and teaches violin as well. He has been practicing yoga and meditation for nearly 20 years. So, what do you think audiences are harsher or emerging artists on online platforms? What would you say to them also?
I don't necessarily think that that's the case, especially given the pandemic. I think people, because we can't attend live concerts, people are looking for music, and I think people are much more supportive of emerging artists. You know, I can't speak for every emerging artist because I'm just one artist, but in my personal opinion, I think that we're well received. With my band Muskox, we played a show about 5 months ago, and we were able to play, and it was streamed all around the world, and we had amazing response. So I think people are very understanding of the situation and very appreciative of any form of music, especially now that we can't have the live performance. I think that the setting is obviously much more intimate. It's just you and the camera. There's no feedback from the audience. So it's a much more intimate experience. You're very almost more aware of your playing, and the experience is much more sort of within, rather than seeking for that response from the audience. I agree with Max, though, that it is difficult to not have, as artists, we really do appreciate having that direct response from the live shows. So speaking as an artist, I do miss having live shows. But coming back to the question, I generally think that people have been very, very supportive of artists. Possibly some people have been harsh on emerging artists, but I can't attest to that. Personally, it's not my experience. I also released some solo tracks for the first time on my Bandcamp, and had a really good response from that. So therefore, my personal experience has been very positive, and I haven't had any kind of harsh remarks whatsoever in that regards.
Well, that's beautiful what you're saying now. So then the thing with the social media, you have found it being like a lot more positive than negative with the feedback and everything.
I would say I've only had positive personally. So I just think that people are very welcoming of any kind of music that they can get and they can hear. And, you know, I personally, I'm very supportive of all the musicians that I see, like on Instagram, or all these new musicians. Personally, it touches me, and I just want to support them and encourage them. So I think that that's a kind of a general consensus as musicians. We feel a lot of support rather than being criticized, especially at this time, you know.
That's beautiful. A lot of empathy has grown in people, and also in the community of artists, like more support between each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you.
So now we have Satish Segovind. He's a life coach, poet, teacher, and founder of School of Soham. Satish has a passion for sharing love and light in the world. And being inspired by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, he is on a mission to bring uplifting education to the world. Whatever he does and offers is a statement of his undying passion and service towards humanity. Hi, Satish, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being here together.
It's a pleasure to have you here in this amazing panel with so much talent. And I have a question for you.
Yes, please ask.
So what are the ways or tools you use to overcome the challenges posed by technology to artists? And what are the tools you have used to overcome challenges and stay mentally strong also?
So this is a really nice question, because you have both things happening, right? Like you have in the world, whether it's physical or virtual, in the digital space, you can have the good and the bad, and it's where you focus on. And luckily for me, I have to be honest, you know, I cannot just say something because it's nice to say. I have to be honest. In the country where I live, the effects of the pandemic hasn't been that severe, or that people felt isolated all the way, But again, when it comes to seeing how technology works and what are the challenges, definitely there's this challenge of feeling, okay, I can't connect with my friends, or I feel kind of alone. So what always worked for me is that how well have we used technology, right? What is your intention behind it? And not being very nonchalant about it or with the technology you have. So a simple example is just when the pandemic came and the lockdown in our country, I was busy making a website of School of Soham and then doing music gatherings together called satsangs, where everyone sings. And then there were these times where someone said, I really needed that. I really needed to feel warm, and I really needed to connect in that way. It was purely virtual through Zoom, and yet it happened. But how can this happen? So if the question is, what are your ways, or what is your way? I would say, how well can we connect? How well have I connected? So when I speak to someone in live, like physically, you have to connect in such a way that if you move the conversation in the digital space, you're still feeling that sense of warmth, that the way the person is, the genuine feeling, right? The way the person is. So that maintains the connection. But if you haven't got that genuine connection in the real life with people, then it might become difficult in the digital space, in the virtual reality, so to speak. This is virtual. And yet, if you use it as if it's real, because anyways, we're connecting, right? We are having an exchange of thoughts, an exchange of minds. I am talking, you're listening, everyone is listening, or I am listening. So anyways, the exchange is happening. Of course, being in a physical space with people physically present is totally different, has a different flavor. But yet I can guarantee from personal experience that there are ways. And I would propose the major way is, how well can you connect? Go deep, have conversations where you can be vulnerable, even as an artist or as a coach or whatever you do. Just connect with your audience in a vulnerable way. And then they will see, whoa, it's very human, like to be vulnerable, and I can also share. So these things happen to me, and I can assure everyone, just like Ifan also said, it does not need to be necessarily negative. It's just where you put your focus on. And I think it's possible because it has been proven for me and for so many other people around me, like with the people whom I have made the website together, my friends. We do good things together. We have done online workshops, and it's possible. So I would say connect, be vulnerable, and it will happen.
That's beautiful. Or what do you use to be like mentally strong? And to
definitely, yes, mental stability is easy. It's definitely, you have to unplug. Someone said it before, Ifan. Cindy said that you have to unplug. Journaling, meditation, breathing exercises, these are done, all the time. You can easily find something on YouTube. There are even 1-minute meditations by Headspace. So there are enough, you want 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes. There is a whole ocean of technology or tools available to just center yourself. So for me, it's always, I am very lazy. So I have the Sattva app and I just scroll and I pick a random meditation, and then I just know, okay, I'm centered and I can work again, and I can do whatever is needed, no matter what the challenges are.
Great. That's amazing. So like being centered to be able to be vulnerable and connect.
And connect, yes, because I have been coaching people for the last 10 years through WhatsApp, and they have seen the benefits. So they can still remember, hey, you helped me with that, 3 years ago. So before the pandemic, I was connecting with people all over the world through WhatsApp. So the technology is the way you use it. I have to say, it's the way you use it. Or I have had comments of people saying through social media, hey, you sang that song and it really touched my heart, and can you sing it again or whatever, it's all about how vulnerable can you be. And then it's not about, everything needs to be needs to happen this way or this way. It becomes kind of mechanical, it's not organic anymore, it's not human. So even technology can have that human touch.
That's beautiful. And do you find it's easier to be vulnerable in the virtual way?
For me, it's both ways, because once you open up certain conversations, you can be vulnerable. It's like literally opening a door. Once you have opened the door, it can happen. So it can be easy both ways, because I have known people in the physical space, they won't speak, but they will speak once they have they are alone and they have the WhatsApp or messaging platforms, and then they say whatever they want to say. But I would just go for a merging of both worlds, the physical as well as the virtual reality, and not be someone else in the physical and someone else in the virtual. We have to be genuine, we have to be vulnerable, and we have to connect in deeper ways. More than ever, because then people don't need to feel isolated or lonely or mentally unstable or whatever the challenges may be.
Thank you, Satish. That was really beautiful.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have Sheikh Abdul Rahman Al-Thani. Welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So Mr. Abdul Rahman Al-Thani is a Qatari interdisciplinary artist, multi-instrumental musician, and a composer. Graduated from Georgetown University with a degree in culture and politics, with a focus on Arab society, history, and culture. His educational and artistic journey reflects his love for local culture and art, which is expressed through his artistic exploration of local music. He is currently working on co-creating an online platform that fosters a regional musical community, archive, and educational tool under the name of Mirwas Collective. Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Abdul Rahman Al-Thani, we have a question for you. So, I wanted to know, your art is totally dependent on how creative you are. And so, how do you manage to keep the river of creativity flowing?
That's a very interesting question, and allow me to be mechanical at first. This might sound a bit reductionist and maybe, too deconstructionist, but a lot of people associate creativity with trauma sometimes. And I remember that was when I was reading the transcript of Orhan Pamuk's Nobel Prize acceptance ceremony. He was dealing with this issue himself, where do I need to be traumatized in order to be a good writer, in order to be a good artist? And he was saying that for me, I didn't feel that. I had a good life, I had a good childhood, I didn't have a lot of issues growing up. Does that mean my art has less value? Now, I do see some merit in trauma being a motivation for creativity. But I do go with the more Nietzschean philosophy of, and that's where he mentions in one of his books on the birth of tragedy, we imitate nature by being artists. So humanity sometimes loses touch with the fact that we're not original. A musician like myself, in the end, will sample the sounds from nature. I'm not creating something from scratch. I'm simply assembling with whatever nature has given me, and that's sounds and frequencies, for instance. That's for my medium as a musician. If we establish that, then what's left for me as an artist, as a composer in my case, is to control my processing ability, to kind of put forth a work of art. And so to poetically answer your question about how to keep the river of creativity flowing, I would believe it has to do with mental state, because while I do believe that as an artist, I simply just sample nature, I do believe that it has to do with my ability at the time, my processing ability to put forth a composition, for instance. I can tell you that I've had instances where I have came up with ideas and finished composing an entire work of art in the span of 2 weeks down to production. And that I have works that I've started in 2018 that I'm still unable to finish. And I think that has to do with the mental state. I don't necessarily think that it has to do with your total mental state, because you can still produce sometimes. But sometimes it has to do with an emotional state towards a certain artistic product or the other.
That's great. So, like, what I get from you is this concept about like that you are not really like inventing anything. It's just everything. It's there in the nature. You just get inspired by it.
That's a very dark way to look at it, but I'm like, it's just a simple deconstruction of how I think it is.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And what would you say, like an advice for emerging artists, where to get their creativity when they feel like a block, or like how could they do?
I'll tell you this, forcing something is never a good habit. I have forced something before in terms of I've tried forcing a musical product out of me sometimes, where I would be stuck in a verse or in a segment here or there. I would end up always scratching what I've done or resenting the work I've presented. It's good to leave things to come naturally, because what we seem to romanticize a lot as artists is sometimes our unstable emotional conditions. And that's not true. Artists can be emotionally healthy too. And they need to in order to produce good art. But again, I do understand that sometimes the drive for becoming an artist can arise from struggle.
That's beautiful. No, to bring down all these concepts about like being an artist, you have to be like suffering, or to get to your creativity. No, like mental stability brings a lot of creativity also.
Definitely.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we have Kocho. Kocho is a Togolese artist and Afro musician. Hi, Kocho. Welcome.
Merci beaucoup, merci pour l'invitation.
So I would like to know, with the world coming to a stop, being in isolation, what did you feel was important to you?
Aujourd'hui, nous nous sommes rendus à l'évidence que, en tant qu'humains, nous avons des faiblesses aléatoires, des choses qui nous empêchent, des choses qui nous disent que nous avons des limites en fait. Et nous ne pouvons pas nous prévaloir et dire que nous sommes au sommet de tout. Aujourd'hui, le monde est en arrêt et nos savoir-faire prouvent que nous avons toujours des choses à apprendre des autres. Aujourd'hui, des artistes qui, par exemple, n'avaient pas la possibilité d'aller sur Internet pour faire la promotion de leur œuvre, commencent par s'intéresser à Internet, ce qui n'était pas le cas avant. Aujourd'hui également, ceux qui avaient des notoriétés sur Internet voient que le monde est talonné, ils voient que ils n'arrivent pas, il y a d'autres générations aussi qui viennent. Bon, personnellement, ce que je retiens de tout ça, c'est que nous avons compris que, en tant qu'humains, nous avons des limites, nous avons beaucoup de choses également à apprendre et il faudrait qu'on puisse s'unir, il faudrait qu'on puisse arriver à aller ensemble, trouver ensemble des solutions. Et l'individualisme aussi est un peu tombé. Il y a ceux qui aiment toujours être individuels, faire les choses à leur manière, aller à one way, puisque quand on est sur Internet, on n'est plus seul. On n'est plus seul vraiment. Donc, c'est ce que j'ai pu noter. c'est ce que je peux dire, que nous ne sommes pas vraiment seuls. On pensait qu'avec Internet, chacun se cache derrière son téléphone et puis envoie des messages. Et puis, il y a de l'interaction. Mais on se voit toujours que ceux qui pensent qu'ils peuvent faire les choses seuls ne peuvent pas le faire seuls parce que justement, la maladie est là et personne n'arrive vraiment. La maladie nous a imposé à vivre ensemble, puisque ceux qui ont la maladie risquent de contaminer leurs prochains. Donc, du coup, il faut se protéger pour protéger également les autres. Donc, nous sommes dans une ambiance où nous sommes interliés, nous sommes plus liés qu'avant. Voilà, c'est ce que je peux dire rapidement.
Thank you, Kocho. So now we have Samuel Lizarralde. Samuel is a member of Mowgli and the Latin Grammy nominee, film composer, electronic live act, and producer. Samuel is known for his eclectic style and genre versatility. Hi, Samuel, how are you? So, how do you balance materialism and spirituality? And do you feel that joy means fame, money, success? Or do you feel like you're somehow like incomplete in somewhere of these aspects?
Creo que son preguntas muy amplias y preguntas que vienen, yo creo que desde tiempos bíblicos más allá del arte, y es ¿qué gana una persona que tiene el mundo entero pero pierde su propia alma? Creo que esa pregunta literalmente viene desde los tiempos más ancestrales y se encuentra desde el Corán hasta la Biblia. Y es una pregunta que hemos tratado de entender como seres humanos y que como artistas se encuentra en el núcleo de lo que ser artista significa. Así que creo que la manera más sencilla de responderla es tal vez contarla en mi experiencia, porque creo que es una pregunta totalmente subjetiva. Y creo que tal vez a través de la experiencia de todos podemos tratar de sacar algo y aplicarlo a nuestra vida. Pero definitivamente no creo que tenga ni yo ni nadie la respuesta a esta pregunta. En lo personal es una pregunta que me tocó mucho y lo sentí y lo he sentido hasta lo más profundo de mi alma. Así que les voy a contar como la experiencia y como la he vivido. Estaba de gira con Mowgli hace aproximadamente un año y estábamos teniendo el mejor momento de nuestra carrera. Estábamos de gira en Estados Unidos apoyados por el gobierno, veníamos de una gira nacional, los números que hoy en día son tan importantes para el arte de alguna manera, estaban en su mejor momento. Y en esta gira me enteré de la nominación al Grammy Latino, que creo que como artistas estas nominaciones y estos premios y reconocimientos son como casi que un sueño para todos. Así que estaba en el mejor momento de mi carrera cuando tuve esta noticia y en lugar de generarme felicidad y emoción, y creo que no podía estar más triste y no podía estar en un peor momento, digamos que mental. Entonces, definitivamente, el reconocimiento, la fama, la materialidad está totalmente opuesto, por lo menos desconectado de la tranquilidad y de la paz mental y de la espiritualidad y de la felicidad como tal. Y el problema radica en que muchos artistas creo que tenemos una conexión con nuestro arte y nuestra carrera que de alguna manera se opone a lo que es per se la felicidad de alguna forma. Muchos artistas venimos de un trasfondo tal vez familiar, tal vez de nuestra niñez, tal vez de nuestra adolescencia muy difícil. Muchos artistas se refugian en el arte y se vuelven artistas en el momento en el que tal vez no tienen mucho más a su alrededor y pues no son todos, pero es la historia de muchos. Y la devoción del arte viene probablemente de esa conexión de no tengo nada a mi alrededor, pero tengo un refugio en el arte y el arte es aquello que siempre va a estar ahí, no me va a decepcionar y no me va a tratar mal como probablemente el resto del mundo lo hizo. Así que ponemos todo nuestro corazón en el arte y nos olvidamos de lo que hay alrededor y de lo que en verdad es la vida y la felicidad, que no se trata de cumplir objetivos o de darlo todo y sacrificar nuestro bienestar por una meta, sino es todo lo contrario. Yo creo que la felicidad se construye a lo largo de nuestra vida. La felicidad no se trata de nosotros, la felicidad se trata de lo que damos, de lo que compartimos con los demás, de vivir nuestro día a día y vivir vivir acá, en el momento, y no esperando resultados y no esperando a que la felicidad llegue de algo más. La felicidad no llega de los premios, no llega del dinero, no llega de un ideal de algo más allá. La felicidad está aquí y está en lo que nos rodea y está en este mismo momento a nuestro alrededor. Entonces creo que es una pregunta que se sobrepone mucho. Es una pregunta que está en constante, sí, en una constante pelea, en la fama contra el hoy en día, el sueño contra lo que tenemos en nuestra vida. Entonces, de esto en el que estaba muy mal, digamos que mentalmente, espiritualmente, pero estaba muy bien en términos de carrera, pude preguntarme eso y hacer una pausa. Y esto fue justo antes de la pandemia, entonces fue un muy buen momento para parar y pensar las cosas y decidir si realmente creía que la felicidad estaba en esos sueños que uno tiene como artista o si la felicidad radica en algo más. Por lo menos para mí, creo que la felicidad radica en algo totalmente opuesto a la fama, el dinero, el reconocimiento. La felicidad radica en lo que le damos en el día a día a los demás, en la paz que tenemos con nosotros mismos y en una armonía que está en el presente, no está en el futuro.
That's beautiful, Sam, no? About like happiness being in the present and not like outside, just connecting inside. That's very beautiful, and I think it's an amazing advice for young artists which are like going through all the struggle and just like, I want this Grammy nominee, and it's beautiful.
Gracias, sí, de eso se trata. Creo que como artistas muchas cosas nos apartan digamos que del resto del mundo. Creo que tenemos una sensibilidad muy fuerte y por eso mismo muchas veces hay un contraste con muchas cosas. Digamos que lo que nos hace ser artistas es lo que nos separa también de las personas en ese ámbito, en que somos más sensibles, en que nos duelen más las cosas, en que nos asombramos más por las cosas. Eso muchas veces genera rechazo y nos aparta de los demás. Entonces ponemos el arte por encima de eso, ¿no? Si soy diferente, entonces me voy a enfocar en ser diferente y alejo a los demás y me enfoco en mi carrera. Y creo que la felicidad es lo contrario, es acercarnos a los demás entendiendo que somos diferentes.
That's beautiful, Sam. Thank you so much for your sharing.
No, thank you for having me here.
And your personal story and everything. Thank you. So now we have Marcus Bradeboy. Marcus is an international recording artist based in Trinidad and Tobago. He's also a law school graduate and the CEO of his own digital marketing agency, IKE, I Know Everybody, as well as a co-owner of the motivational lifestyle brand Addicted to Progress. Welcome, Marcus.
Hi, Sophia. Thank you for having me. I'm enjoying this panel a lot, very insightful.
Yeah, it was beautiful. So, well, that's amazing about your agency and your brand. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
Like there is always someone younger, more talented, and new in town. And as an artist, do you feel insecure about this?
Wow, that's a very interesting question. I'm going to answer honestly, as honest as I can. I think it's especially relevant to the style of music I do. I do hip hop, dancehall, EDM, and also recently reggaeton and Afrobeats. And I think there's a lot of pressure to keep up with the trends. I'm branded as a rapper, especially globally. And I think in rap and hip hop, being young and cool and having the latest fashion styles and, being into the latest styles of music and just overall, just being very youthful has been difficult for me because I'm 35 going on 36. And while I'm youthful at heart, I am very much evolving as an adult man. So that has been really tough for me, especially over the past 3 years. And I would say initially in my career, like on the come up, it didn't bother me that much because, well, one, I was younger, and two, I had such tunnel vision. I never really cared about those things. But as I started to get success, I found myself, especially with social media, comparing myself to other artists, especially younger artists, and wondering if, is my time almost up? Am I too old to be doing this? And then I think 2020 was really an interesting year for me because I got a lot of time to reflect, just as everyone else. And I started to think about what are my assets as an artist? What is my superpower? And I'm very much into motivational quotes. And there's a quote that says that you are you and you are yourself, and that is your superpower. And I started to stop thinking about my age, and I stopped thinking about, falling off, or, not being youthful enough, or is my time almost up? And I started to think about what makes me a superhero artist, and I started to think about the fact that I have a lot of experience. I have a background in law. I have a lot of experience in the music industry in terms of contracts. I'm able to negotiate my own contracts. I'm an amazing network. I do collaborations with persons from all over the world. So I started to think less about competing with younger artists. And I've always been someone as well who tried to encourage younger artists. So for me, I will admit that it definitely affected me. It still does. I'm human. It's a everyday battle with me. But I try to focus more on not competing with other people, but encouraging other people and just focusing on my own personal journey. And they say music is a mission, not a competition. So I think that has been my main focus right now, to focus on the mission of music and the purpose as an artist rather than competing with others.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love this thing about thinking, what is your superpower?
Yeah, that's been very important for me.
Yes, I find it very inspiring for young people, even if they're not artists. Okay, what is your superpower? What is what brings your personal touch?
Yes, I agree. And I think we all have a superpower. Each of us was blessed with some superpower. And I think that makes you unique. And you have to stop comparing ourselves to others. There'll always be somebody who you think is prettier or better looking or, more talented than you. But you are your own superhero, and you have your own superpower, and focus on that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And well, I guess you translate this message in all your art and in your consulting and everything. It's really inspiring and uplifting message for everyone.
Thank you very much. I try my best, and I will continue to try my best.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for sharing your talent with this whole world. And I hope each one of you will continue growing in your careers and spreading your art. And it was a pleasure to have you all here today. So stay tuned for the next session. Bye. Thank you.